Welcome back, Giants fans. So free agency has kind of started. The tampering period. Deals have been announced. And the Giants were pretty quiet up until about a half hour ago. I was eating dinner and I get the notification. Bobby Okereke. I always said Okereke. I'm going to stick with that until proven otherwise. But Bobby Okereke signs with the Giants, former Colts linebacker, 4 years and $40 million. They made some other moves. They did add some defensive line depth. They got Rakeem Nunes-Roches from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, won a Super Bowl with them. So that adds to the interior defensive line depth for the Giants. They signed him for reportedly 3 years, $12 million. They also got Matt Breida back on a 1-year deal. And Nick Gates goes to Washington, which it was a little surprising. I mean, obviously this regime, they like John Feliciano a lot. He might come back. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Nick Gates was not their guy. And Nick Gates had a pretty decent season that 1 year. Got hurt in 2020, I believe it was, and then came back, and he wasn't exactly the same guy. I mean, I think it was 2021 he got hurt. I'm sorry. 2021 he got hurt. Last year he came back. Wasn't exactly the same guy, so I don't know. But I'm not going to lose sleep over that. It is what it is. But I'm very happy with the Bobby Okereke signing. He's a guy that I really wanted. And the timing is crazy because on Twitter, just for fun, I posted the video of Bobby Okereke getting drafted, and Pat McAfee announced the pick, so it was just going to be a riot. And he announced it as like future Hall of Famer Bobby Okereke. And I tweeted, I said future Hall of Famer, by the way, and at the Giants. And then literally like 5 minutes later, he's announced he's a Giant. I'm like, wow, that's pretty crazy. So great timing. Do I have sources? Maybe. No, I don't have sources, but I got very lucky with that one. But Bobby Okereke is a Giant. Very happy about it. Man's 26 years old. Ran a 4.58 40. Honestly, does not get enough credit for what he can do in coverage. He's known more as a run stopper, very good in the run game. But the man has long arms. He understands route concepts. He's good at, he has football IQ. He knows what routes are going on behind him. I think he's a very good addition to this team. I think I like him better than Blake Martinez. I know Martinez had a very good 2020 season. Those are some big shoes to fill. But I would not be surprised if Bobby Okereke has a better Giants career than Blake Martinez did that 1 year. I'll read you guys the PFF blurb they have on Bobby Okereke. Okereke stepped up in a major way in the absence of fellow off-ball linebacker Shaquille Leonard. And yes, by the way, that's very true. Shaquille, formerly Darius Leonard, missed a lot of time. I think he played in 3 games last year. He was like their all-pro middle linebacker. So Okereke, in a contract year, had to step up big time for the Colts defense, and he did that by having 151 total tackles, 99 solo tackles. He also had 13 solo tackles versus the Giants in the Week 17 game when the Giants beat the crap out of the Colts. But hey, Okereke was playing very hard, even though his team sucks. So good character guy. I like that. Anyway, he had a 72.9 grade, ranking 23rd at his position. Okereke was particularly stout against the run with his 13 run stops, tied for the 13th most at the position, and is now coming off back-to-back seasons with at least 100 tackles and 50 defensive stops. The former third-round pick still has room to grow as a coverage player, but at 6'1" and 235 pounds, he moves well enough in space to not be a liability in coverage. Now, the linebacker market was pretty weird today. I'm sure you guys have followed the moves around the league. The contract that we saw Tremaine Edmonds get was pretty insane. I forget exactly what the number was. I'll look it up quickly. I feel like the man got like $84 million or something crazy like that. It was like 4 years, 72. Sorry. It was 4 years, $72 million contract. Jermaine Pratt got 3 years, 21. TJ Edwards got 3 years, 19 from the Bears. The Bears signed everybody today, it felt like. And David Long, right before the Okereke signing, got a 2-year, $11 million deal from the Dolphins. And it feels like based on value that TJ Edwards and David Long are probably the best ones out of that group, but I think based on pure talent, I mean, Tremaine Edmonds is probably the number one guy, no doubt about it. But after that, you can make the argument for like TJ Edwards or Bobby Okereke, however you want to split it. As I said, I like Okereke. So that fits a massive need for the Giants. It was a rough year at linebacker. Not rough year, I would say a rough decade plus at linebacker for the Giants. And this finally might be the stability they needed at that position. So I mentioned Blake Martinez in 2020. He tore his ACL like very, very early in 2021, so his Giants career did not last very long. But I think Bobby Okereke will at least give us 3 really good seasons, hopefully more if he plays even better. So the Giants, at least for the short-term / long-term future, have their solution at inside linebacker going forward. He's also been durable. I'm looking at his games played. He played all 16 in 2019. He played 14 in 2020, played all 17 in 2021, and then played all 17 this past year in 2022. And once again, he played a big role because the man in front of him, the all-pro linebacker Shaquille Leonard, was out for 14 of the 17 games. So that man stepped up in a big way, made stuff happen. Now, throughout his career with the Colts, he's played pretty much everywhere at the linebacker spot. Sam, Will. He played some Mike this year because, once again, he had to take over for Leonard. So the man can play anywhere. I really don't have, he's even had snaps listed at slot, which I don't think he's going to be a slot corner for this team, obviously. But in the event that he has to, he can. And that's definitely nice to know. A lot of versatility there for Bobby Okereke. The Giants made another signing, of course. It was Rakeem Nunes-Roches, and he's a guy who's played 8 years in the league. He was drafted by KC, spent the last 5 years in Tampa, won a Super Bowl in 2020. Now, he only has, 3.5 sacks his entire career. Not very good, right? But he did have 2 last year, so a career high, but he's been a pretty useful player for Tampa the past few years. I mean, last season, he did have a pretty good year overall. He had 33 combined tackles. He did have the 2 sacks. He was a useful player, 10 starts. Now, his PFF grading the past year was not too generous, if you care about that. They gave him a 56 overall grade, a 58 run defense grade, and they gave him, coverage grade doesn't really matter for a guy at his position, but a 54 pass rushing grade, 63 in tackling. So yeah, it was a down year in that perspective, but how much do you want to care about PFF grades? Well, that's up to you. But he's 29 years old, and as I said, it's a 3-year, $12 million deal. I was a bit surprised by that, but he's a solid player. He's not a person that's going to be a liability. At least I don't think so. I probably said the same thing about Mark Lewinsky last year, and that didn't turn out exactly correct. But hopefully Nunes-Roches, Mr. Nacho, is going to give us no problems. That's the hope. So we had that. We had Matt Breida returns. I was a bit surprised once again. I figured the Giants, of course, they're planning on having Saquon back. They may extend him. We'll see what happens. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with Saquon. I prefer he just plays on the tag, but if Saquon doesn't want to play on the tag and holds out, I completely understand where he's coming from. Running back at 26 years old, you want to get paid long-term, have stability. I completely get it. So at least you have some insurance. You bring back Matt Breida. He was effective at times last year. He picked up some big first downs, I remember, in the Vikings playoff game, so that was good. But I also figured, hey, they might go through the draft. They might get somebody behind Barkley in, the 3rd or 4th round, because I don't think Saquon Barkley is a long-term option for the Giants. I do think Joe Shane doesn't value the running back position nearly as Dave Gettleman did, and not many GMs do. I don't think we'll ever see a running back go in the top 5 ever again, so Saquon's probably the last of his kind. But I do think Joe Shane might invest a 3rd or 4th round pick, a 5th round pick into a running back if the right guy falls to them. And apparently this running back class is very good, so we'll see how that plays out in late April. I actually haven't talked to you guys since the Sterling Shepard news. I think that came out a day after I last talked to you guys. I like it. I mean, it's not something I'm going I'm super happy about, but I still think there's something to Sterling Shepard being in the locker room, and he's just such a great team guy. Even last year when he tore his ACL, he was there a couple weeks after he tore his ACL. He was there supporting his teammates. He was still on the sidelines. So there's no guarantee that he's going to come back next year and play all 17 games and be very productive and be the Sterling Shepard that we used to know. There's no guarantee at all. But I do at least like the fact that the Giants will have him in training camp. He'll be there for a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson, who's also coming off an ACL tear. He'll be there for any other potential young wide receivers they may draft in the upcoming draft. We could, of course, bring back some other guys like Darius Slayton. We'll find out. Of course, Isaiah Hodgins is back. Shepard is still, 29 now? Yeah, he's 30. All right, so he just turned 30. He's still technically in the prime of his career. I mean, you'd rather be 25, 26, but 30 is not bad for a wide receiver. You just got to hope that, his ligaments can stay intact, because that has not really been the case here the past few years. I think MetLife, there's that thing where they're changing their turf. I'm hoping that's what's going to happen here, and hopefully we see less of these freak injuries, because what happened with him last year, he was just straight up jogging and tore his ACL out of nowhere. It was very weird against the Cowboys on that Monday night game. So right now, at least, the Giants have a linebacker they can rely on very much. At wide receiver, they have some guys back. I mentioned Hodgins. They have Shepard. Wandell's back. I think Colin Johnson's under contract. Of course, you still have Darius Slayton out there. What happens with him, I don't know. Now, personally, I could be wrong, but I don't see a world where Slayton and Julian Love are back. The Giants may have to pick between those guys if they want to. If I had to pick, I'd probably say they lean Julian Love. I have not really seen many reports about the Giants working out a deal for Darius Slayton. Julian Love's also 2 years younger. And of course, last offseason, there were reports about the Giants possibly cutting Darius Slayton. So they didn't necessarily want him last year. He did impress us last season. Did have some drops, of course. I think he had like 5 drops last year, which was, it's not top of the league, but it's like the next tier. It's not very good. Slayton's a fine wide receiver 3. I guess he could pass as a wide receiver 2 in certain offenses, but I would rather go with somebody else, of course. I mean, there's a lot of wide receivers we went over in the last video. I don't want the washed-up veterans. I don't want the Adam Thielen. I don't want the Michael Thomas guys who never stay healthy. I've talked about guys like Mecole Hardman. I talked about DJ Chark. I've talked about our older friend Odell Beckham. Even a guy like Jacoby Myers, who may cost too much, he would fit this offense very well. I just don't see it happening. But Odell Beckham apparently wants a lot of money. That might be a problem, because nobody wants to pay Odell $20 million per year coming off a season where he did not play due to injuries. So I don't think Odell at 30 years old is getting $20 million per year having not played in a full season. So that's probably not going to happen for him. But if he comes at a cheaper price, I would love to have Odell. We mentioned Paris Campbell. We already signed one Colts player. Why not another? We'll find out what happens with him. And then Mecole Hardman. They need somebody, though. As I mentioned, I really want to go into next year and find out what Daniel Jones is. I don't want to have the excuses. I want to find out, is this guy our quarterback, or is he just another guy? That's what we have to find out here. So if you get him a wide receiver 1, hopefully they figure it out. There's been some rumors that Jerry Jeudy is a possibility. Now, I did hear in one of my group chats, I'm not going to say whose name it is, obviously, but he says his friend knows a friend that knows somebody in the Giants building, and they said they're working on a trade for Jerry Jeudy. But the holdup was that the Giants want Jeudy for a 3rd and a 5th, but the Broncos want a 2nd-round pick. So believe that if you want, but that's what I saw. If that's the truth, I'm okay doing that personally. Judy's 23 years old. He's one of the best route runners in the league. This Giants team values separators very much. So if it's up to me, if it's a 2nd-round pick plus a 5th, I think I could talk myself into it, because you have Jeudy next year. Last year of his rookie deal, he's probably making $4 million next year. Not much. I think you'll have the 5th-year option. He was a 1st-round pick, so you have basically 2 years of contract control for Jerry Jeudy. I'll look up his contract real quick just to be completely accurate here. So next season, 2023, it's a $4.8 million cap hit. If they picked up the 5th-year option, he would make $12.9 million against the cap next year, or in 2024, I'm sorry, so 2 years from now. So yeah, it's not that bad. It's pretty much like you're getting him for 2 years, $16 million total. I wouldn't mind it. I really wouldn't mind. I know a 2nd-round pick is a lot. You'd rather have a guy on a full rookie contract. I get the argument, but in the 2nd round, you're hoping and praying you get a guy like a Jerry Jeudy. You already know you have Jerry Jeudy. It's kind of like the mystery box in the Family Guy episode. Just take the guy you know is very good. I understand where people are coming from. You don't want to give up the draft capital, and I completely get it, but Jerry Jeudy's younger than some guys that are being drafted this year. He's still 23, so I would not mind it. I think some people are a little against giving up a 2nd-round pick, and I get where you're coming from. I would much prefer a 3rd and a 5th, but if the asking price is a 2nd and a 6th, or even a 2nd and a 5th, I think I would do it. I think Jerry Jeudy's that good, and hopefully he does stay healthy, of course, but I think he'd fit the Giants offense in a great way, and he would help Daniel Jones out a lot, and he'd be his go-to receiver. Now, Jeudy, I remember, did get hurt at MetLife the first game of 2021, so You don't want to see that, but I think he'll be fine, hopefully. But he's a guy the Giants are hopefully looking into. And I do think the Giants are doing their homework on any possible receiver they can get in the building. I'm sure they've called the Niners for Brandon Ayuk. I'm sure they've called the Bengals for T. Higgins. I'm sure they're talking to the Broncos about Jerry Jeudy. I'm sure they're trying every single avenue to try and get Daniel Jones a wide receiver 1 in the smartest way. And maybe their backup plan is to sign Odell Beckham. I don't know. We'll find out. Let's run through the NFL real quick and just talk about some of the other big signings going on here. Lorenzo Carter's back with the Falcons. I saw Jonnu Smith went to the Falcons. They extended Chris Lindstrom. Jesse Bates went to the Falcons as well. The Bills, they got Matt Milano for a 2-year extension. They got Connor McGovern from the Cowboys. Of course, Chicago made some big moves today. DJ Moore, Tremaine Edmonds, and TJ Edwards. The Broncos got Mike McGlinchey. That was big for them. And I believe the Broncos got Ben Powers, too, from the Baltimore Ravens. So the offensive line that was not very good for Russell Wilson last year hopefully does get better for him. Lions got Cameron Sutton, cornerback. I like that signing. 3 years, $33 million. The Chiefs get Jawan Taylor. I think he was out of Florida, former second-round pick. He spent the last 4 years in Jacksonville, had his ups and downs at right tackle, but now he'll be the right tackle, it seems like, for Kansas City. The Raiders got Jimmy Garoppolo, 3 years, $67 million. Pretty interesting contract for him. Of course, there's no middle ground for quarterback contracts, but it seems like that's pretty close to middle ground right there for Jimmy Garoppolo, making $22, $23 million per year on average. So I don't know. I mean, maybe that kind of opens up a new avenue for quarterback contracts going forward. I don't think Jimmy G is a $35, $40 million type quarterback, but I also think he's too good to be paid $8 or $10 million per year. So making $22, $23 million per year for a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo makes sense. Jalen Ramsey went to the Dolphins, as we know. Derek Carr to the Saints. I mean, good luck with that. I'm not really a big Derek Carr guy, as I always say. Oh, I forgot to mention this one. Giants. Jamie Gillen is back on a 2-year, $4 million deal. That was not something I liked waking up to today, but I don't know what the Giants necessarily see in him, but it must be something. I really don't know because I didn't see it. I know a lot of fans were not very happy with this move, but I'm not going to lose sleep over a punter. I mean, it'd be nice to have a better one, but I figured for sure the Giants would improve that position, but they bring him back, surprisingly. Quincy Williams resigns with the Jets. They also traded for Chuck Clark from the Ravens. Eagles got Brandon Graham back on a 1-year deal. Steelers got Patrick Peterson, who's probably near his mid-30s now. The Niners had an interesting day. The Niners got Javon Hargrave from the Eagles, 4 years, $84 million. Their defensive line with Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, they are disgusting. Javon Kinlaw as well. Sam Darnold is there to presumably back up Trey Lance, and I think Sam Darnold had a pretty good year for when he played last year, so nice move by them. Of course, Geno's back with the Hawks. You have Jamel Dean, 4 years, $52 million with the Buccaneers. He was probably the biggest cornerback on the market, so he's back with the Bucks. And the Commanders got Daron Payne, re-signed him for 4 years, $90 million. And that, to us Giants fans, means one thing: Dexter Lawrence is getting paid big time when his contract is up. So congrats to Dexter Lawrence on a future massive contract, as we've seen some big defensive tackle contracts in the past couple weeks. So before I close it out, I want to see if I missed anything because, things fly around at this time. You never know what's going to happen on Twitter in free agency. So some of the top free agents available: my guy, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I would love to have him. I don't think it's going to happen, but I would love it. Orlando Brown doesn't matter for the Giants. James Bradbury is still out there. That's a maybe. I wouldn't expect it, but that's a maybe. Levante David, signing Okereke, I don't think he's much of a need anymore. You could double down on linebacker, but I don't think they're going to do that. I'd be very surprised. Jacoby Myers, as I mentioned. Dalton Schultz, he's the Dallas tight end. Caleb McGarry, I think he's the right tackle for the Falcons. I don't think he's that good, so I wouldn't really go there as you're developing Evan Neal. You have Isaac Samalu. I think I'm pronouncing that right, hopefully, but he was the guard for the Eagles, played very well this past year. Might be a bit pricey, but of course the Giants can use some guard help. We'll see. Bobby Wagner, Zach Allen, defensive lineman for the Cardinals, Jordan Poyer from the Bills. That's a maybe. I mean, I would love Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He's a lot younger, but Jordan Poyer, I think, is like 30. It's a possibility. I mean, you have Dable, you have Shane, you have some Buffalo guys. You never know. It's definitely possible. Marcus Davenport, I didn't even know he was a free agent, but defensive lineman with the Saints, and Juju Smith-Schuster is also on this list, who I don't see the Giants getting. Also, I don't know about you guys, but this Aaron Rodgers stuff is getting ridiculous. Like, can Aaron just pick a team already? It's either Jets or retirement, basically. So I don't know what's taking so long here, but if I were a Jets fan, I'd be pretty pissed about this. But it's annoying. Like, you see so many updates like, oh, Aaron Rodgers, it's done. He's going to the Jets. And then you see like 20 minutes later, oh, hold on, nothing happened yet. So it's frustrating. I just want this Rodgers thing to end. I'm sure Jets fans feel even more anxious about it. But like 4 hours ago, it was tweeted that the deal was done. I think Trey Wingo tweeted out that the deal was done. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason for it. Who the hell knows? So that'll do it for this portion. Of course, more signings will happen. I'll talk to you guys hopefully in the coming days. So far, I'm pretty satisfied. I mean, it was a bit quiet, but as you guys can tell, I love the Okereke signing. Getting Nacho from the Buccaneers is a good depth move. I wasn't really a fan of 3 years, $12 million, but I don't know. I'm not going to say it's not my money because that's the dumbest argument you can make because it's literally a salary cap league. So if they're paying players a lot of money, that means other positions on your team can't be filled. So I don't know why people say it's not your money. Yes, it's not my money, but it's also our salary cap. You know what I mean? Like it's also it's something that we don't want to overspend on. So hopefully people understand that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let's get Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I'll talk to you guys next time.